welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolfe, Nick Wright, Kevin Wild, and joining us this morning, our fourth host. Moving forward, we got Brandon Marshall. Brandon, we are so excited to have you here. 13 seasons in the NFL, 6-time Pro Bowler. But this morning, my friend, this morning you are a rookie, and so we welcome you.
I'm a rookie, and I have a quick question for you guys. Do I wear pants or no pants?
Always
shorts.
pants.
Shorts.
I'm going to take it.
Shorts are fine.
Yes.
Shorts are
Shorts are fine.
Yes is the answer.
Wilds wears
It is
pink
the
board
answer.
shorts. Wear whatever you want.
Hey, as a
I do
welcome
have
to
the
the
pink shorts
show,
on.
Brandon, we're going to give you the highlight scene around the basketball world last night. Overtime between the Mavs and Clippers with 3.5 seconds left. Dallas down 1, and Luka did that. Watch it again. The step up, nailing the overtime game-winning three-point shot. Pound that chest, buddy. You earned it. Capped an incredible night for Luka. 43 points, 17 rebounds, 13 assists, a triple-double to tie this series up at 2 games apiece. You loved it. I loved it. You know who else loved it? LeBron James. He tweeted this after the game, loving Mike Breen's famous bang-bang call on the buzzer beater. Steph Curry chiming in with, sheesh, Luka Doncic, that's ridiculous. Blouses. And D-Wade, wow. Luka, we are not worthy. Nick, I'll never forget, you sold me on Luka before he ever got to the NBA. You said this kid was special. After what you saw last night, after the series he's put together, and after that last shot, how special is Luka Doncic?
Well, this is how you become a legend. And this kid's going to be a legend. Jenna, I appreciate you calling back to before the draft when folks thought I was way over my skis, not just saying he had to go #1 overall, but that he had the chance to be one of the 10 best basketball players we've ever seen. And at every checkpoint of his career, at 16 years old, playing with 30-year-old grown men, at 18 years old, winning MVP of the second-best basketball league in the world, and now at 21 years old, with a record-breaking triple-double and an iconic buzzer beater that will live forever. The stakes on that shot are 9 out of 10. The degree of difficulty on that shot is 9 out of 10. His individual performance in the game leading up to that shot is 10 out of 10. This is how you become a legend. Second best player gone. Bum ankle. Right in Kawhi Leonard's. Oh, that was Reggie Jackson guarding him because Kawhi switched. But all the same, still, against a great defense, you do that to essentially keep your season alive. It is not hyperbole to talk about Luka's trajectory as one of the greatest players ever. Now, it's just a trajectory right now, but he entered the postseason, which is where legends are made, with a career high of 42 points. Game 1 of the postseason, he matched it, and Game 4 of the postseason, right there, he beat it with a walk-off. So, Brandon, there is no such thing as hyperbole today when it comes to what this young man did yesterday and what his future looks like, Brandon.
Listen, no, it's not a trajectory. This is the real deal. This is the Luka train, and it's taken off. You're either on it or you're not. But he is the face of the NBA. LeBron, I love that you're tweeting him, but are you ready to give up that throne? Because Luka is here. Think about this, and let me see if I can get this right. Rick Carlisle last night said after the game, we know this kid acts and has a thing for the dramatic. He's a performer. He's also a great player. He lives for these moments. He's fearless. When's the last time we've heard a coach talk about player this way? That's the ultimate compliment for a player. This kid not only had a double-double, but this kid had a 40-point double-double, and he had 17 rebounds. That's the thing no one's talking about. No one's talking about the 17 rebounds. 43 points is easy. 43 points, anybody can do that. 17 rebounds, it shows the Mamba mentality. Way to celebrate and pay homage to the GOAT on his birthday, Kobe Bryant.
Brandon, I'm glad you mentioned that. Do you know how many wins Kobe Bryant had in his playoffs? I'll tell you. 220. Do you know how many wins Jenna's favorite player, Danny Ainge, had playoff wins, 193. This is Luka's second win. Second win, I think it's fine to have a little bit of nuance here, and I reject Nick's idea that there's no such thing as hyperbole. It's his second win. It's fine. It's like listening to an album and saying, this might be one of the greatest albums I've ever heard. I said, really, Brandon? Well, what's your favorite song? I said, I don't know. I've only listened to 10 seconds of it. I heard boom, 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 boom. And I was like, this is one of the best albums I've ever heard in my life. Like, so, Nick, I'll throw it back to you. I just feel I reject the idea there's no such thing as hyperbole. Okay. I can make the argument that Donovan Mitchell had a better game yesterday. So we're talking all time. Donovan may have had the better day.
Well, I reject your rejection. And at times, you listen to an album, and 30 seconds in, you're like, oh, go ahead, kids out there who only know this new version of Kanye. Turn on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and see how many seconds it takes you to realize, oh, this might be the most perfect album ever created. Or for Wild's generation, I don't know, the Beatles' White Album or some nonsense like that. Sometimes you just know. And I am not saying Luka is one of the 10 greatest players ever. What I am saying is, if you are going to become that, this right here is mandatory. LeBron James at 21, second in MVP at 22, takes a team to the finals. Michael Jordan, year 2, 63 points in the Garden. Kareem, year 2, league MVP, champion. Magic, rookie season, 42, 15, and 7. We can keep going. Bill Russell, league MVP in year 2. Kobe Bryant at 22 years old, averaged 29 a game in the postseason. You want a contemporary guy who could be a top 10 guy all time. Kevin Durant, year 3, scoring champion in the league. If you want to be in this discussion, you have to have this type of start. And when you do have this type of start, and you have his pedigree, and you have his track record since he was 16 years old, and you're doing it against the Vegas favorites to win the title, Jenna, that's how you become one of the greatest players ever, by having this as part of your story.
And, Nick, we should mention he did it without Kristaps Porzingis, who was a late scratch before they started. Now to the other side, the Clippers. And even though the series is tied, it feels like all the momentum has shifted to Dallas. I thought this was interesting after the game. Clippers head coach Doc Rivers with some pretty harsh criticism about his team. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Honestly, I thought he got to lead and stop playing and give them credit. They kept playing. You know, I thought that end of the second, that whole second quarter, they'll make it a run, get back in the game. Change the whole complexity of the game. But honestly, I thought we were very emotionally weak tonight, to be honest.
Wow.
Brandon, I'll ask you, what do you make of Doc Rivers saying his team was emotionally weak? You want to hear that from your head coach?
That's the worst thing you can hear from your coach. You got to think about it. As an athlete, we pride ourselves on being this, you know, these strong, machismo type guys. And when you hear a coach say emotional, like that just tells you that this team doesn't have what it takes. If I'm a player in that locker room right now, I'm taking this personal because my coach just told me that I'm weak, that I can't do it. So I think if I'm Paul George and I'm getting paid all this money, I'm going to coach and say, Coach, what do I need to do to get this thing back on the right track? That's not what you want to hear from a player. This is unbelievable. I've never seen a superstar and superstars play this way. This team was the favorite to win the championship, win it all. I don't like this, and if I'm in this locker room, I'm taking it personal. Coach cannot call you that. Can't say that.
And Brandon, if Paul George does go to Doc Rivers can go to his giant well of knowledge like, hey, here's how I helped Tracy McGrady get out of the first round. Wait, no, we always lost. Here's how I helped CP3 and Blake Griffin get past round 2. Oh, wait, no, we always... Hey, that's not on T-Mac. Doc had prime T-Mac, never got out of the first round. Doc all of a sudden, Doc has CP3 and Blake. Doc's out here saying his team's emotionally weak. They also schematically didn't seem that sound, letting Luka drop 43 and 1 on their head in a game their team gave up 135. But more importantly, Wilds, this is why folks think I'm anti-Clippers, because I'm anti-Kawhi. I got nothing against Kawhi. And by the way, he's been sensational this postseason start to finish. But this is why this team makes me angry. They got no respect for the process. They have no respect and have had it none all year long from the work that you have to do in order to be a champion. I said it last week, I will say it again. They have approached this season the way we have seen multiple-time defending champions approach seasons. But they ain't won nothing. They're in a war with a 7 seed against a 21-year-old kid, Maxi Kleber, and offshoots from the Knicks and undrafted guys. Like, if you're going to say we're going to flip a switch, make sure the lights work first. But you ain't never won anything yet with this team. And so Wilds, I totally agree with Doc. All year long, when a team has punched them back, the Clippers have lightly punched back as well. And if a team punches back a second time, they're like, well, it's just the regular season. Well, it's just this. And now all of a sudden, well, it's just, the most critical game of our season up to this point, and the other team's best player's injured, and their second best player's not there, but we'll get them next time. You're running out of next times, Clippers. Kevin?
So I think I was extra surprised to hear this, Nick, because Patrick Beverley and Joakim Noah, all first-team Kevin Wilds, are both on this team and are supposed to provide the emotional spark. But, Brandon, I'll throw it to you. I thought Paul George was very honest and transparent in his post-game comments. He's like, look, one of the reasons I'm struggling is because I don't have a hostile crowd to get me pumped up. So I don't know if it's – and he was talking about trying to figure out a way to get himself motivated. To you, have you ever felt like you needed the boos or the crowd, being against you to get you into a zone? And do you think Paul George is like that too?
I'm going to be honest with you. There's some guys that you would expect that from, but not a superstar, not a guy that you gave the keys to the franchise to, not a guy that came to the LA Clippers to win a championship. That's not what you want to hear from Paul George. I found it interesting as well in post in his presso where he said, you know what? I need a hostile environment to get going. So what are you saying to us, Paul? Are you bored? Like that, I just don't get it. There's never been a better moment, a bigger moment to take a championship. You have a restart to a season. Like, Paul George, we don't want to hear that from you. You're the superstar. Come on, man. Get to the basket, make some layups, play some defense, and get it going.
You want a hostile environment, Paul George? Read your Twitter mentions. On to the Lakers now. Man. Did LeBron activate playoff mode over the weekend? Nick gets happy. First things first. Welcome, Brandon.
I think Paul had a hostile environment.
Tonight on FS1, we got some baseball coming your way. Javi Baez leading the Cubs into Detroit for a battle with Miguel Cabrera and the Tigers. All the action starts at 7 Eastern on FS1 and the Fox Sports app.
Like a home run derby.
All right, back here talking a little Lakers-Blazers, Game 3, Saturday night. We waited for LeBron and AD to activate playoff mode. Nick said they were going to activate playoff mode, and on Saturday night, playoff mode. LeBron, 38, 12, and 8. AD, 23 of his 29 in the second half. And the Lakers get the win. They take a 2-1 series lead over the Blazers. Nick, you called it. LeBron turned it on when he felt he needed to. Was that playoff mode LeBron what we saw Saturday night?
Yeah, but you've seen it since game 1. And listen, folks are just never going to learn. Folks are just going to decide that this is the year. This is the year. I promise you, LeBron loses in the first round. This is the year he goes to the well, and it's not there. And they're just going to continue to look like, and I say this with no due respect, total idiots. because every year he makes them look bad. And so here's the deal for LeBron in the postseason. If his shot is falling, he's going to score right around 40. If it's not falling, he's going to score right around 30. He's going to control every aspect of the game, and he's going to play lockdown defense. That's what the Lakers are going to get over the next, they probably got about 20 games, 21 games left in their season, 14 wins left in their season, and that's what it is. And for all the folks who are like, listen, he needs to be in game one, he needed to attack more, he needed to take the control. You think Danny Green, who finally went 2 of 4 from 3, KCP, who's actually made some shots, games 2 and 3, you think they're happy LeBron continued to show faith in him? You think Anthony Davis, who was miserable in game 1, is happy that in game 2 LeBron said, AD, you got to take us home, buddy? I'm just curious, like, do folks maybe think possibly LeBron has thought about this and knows more about what approach his team needs than they do, because he's only shown it for 17 years. So, Brandon, yeah, that was playoff mode, but it was also playoff mode even when they lost in game 1, and it'll be playoff mode tonight when they wax the Blazers again.
Yeah, I mean, Jenna, I don't think this is playoff mode. I think this is blood in the water mode. There's a few players that take advantage of weakness, right? Think about this. There's a couple guys, when they see you tired, when they see you sucking for air, when they see your hands on your hips and on your knees bending over, they get fueled by that. There's 2 opponents right now in sports. There's the guys that you're playing against, and then there's COVID-19. And I really believe LeBron James was fueled by this and said, this may be the easiest path to the championship that I've ever had. And he's had some tough ones because he saw guys relaxing, going on vacation, not in the gym, overweight, opting out. And LeBron said, this is my moment. I truly believe that LeBron James is one of the smartest players. He's tactical, he's very strategic, and we're seeing him play into that again.
You know, Brandon, I agree with you that there's 2 opponents that there's people playing against, and the Blazers have 2 opponents too. One is people in the purple and gold, and the other guys are in gray and black. If we can throw up a little graphic, Nick, I'd like this is a graphic. This is a graphic that needs no. I did introduce it. It needs no context. Nick, just go ahead, take a look at this. I know you're a big analytics guy. Just take a look at it. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this, Nick?
You know what it looks like? The best player on one team is a 6'8" Mack truck that drives, and the best player on the other team, pictured there, is a 6'1" guy that shoots from 35 feet. So I would imagine those numbers might look like that, but maybe you've got some deeper level analysis to it, Wilds.
Well, no, I'm just saying. They're odd numbers. If anybody wants to dig into it, you can jump on Twitter and look at how historically odd that is. But here's what I know. Can I guarantee a Blazers victory tonight? No. But there's one thing I can guarantee. Terry Stotts complained about the refereeing without getting fined. Damian Lillard complained about the refereeing without being fined. I can guarantee that the referees are going to be like, oof, that graphic that Wilds put up in First Things First this morning, we were way off. Guys, we got to call this a little bit tighter. Terry Stotts knows it. The game flow will change, so the game will be different this time, Jenna.
Not so different that you're willing to turn around and actually make a prediction. Nick, you're blowing that off, right? That means nothing to you.
Listen, the one team attacks and is a great defensive team. The other team shoots a ton of threes and is a miserable defensive team. The Blazers can't defend without fouling. Like, I don't even believe, and I hate to say this about my partner, Kevin Wilds, I don't even believe he believes that this is a refereeing issue. This is a who's better issue. And it's always been a who's better issue. And by the way, Brandon, you were talking about the ease of the path. I disagree with you in this regard. I think that having a rested and healthy Houston Rockets team in round 2 is a very difficult opponent and stylistically presents some problems for the Lakers, which is why, Brandon, it's all the more important that when that series starts, LeBron is playing great, AD's in rhythm, they're actually hitting some shots. This whole Blazers series, in my opinion, Brandon, has been the preliminary rounds a nice warm up to get a sweat going before the playoffs really begin for the Lakers next round, Brandon.
So Nick, are you saying that this is the year that James Harden stays hot? Is that what I hear you saying?
Listen, what I'm saying is this. I think if there was any team that benefited the most from the season shutting down, it's a team that wasn't going to have home court anyway, so they didn't lose home games, and a team with two super high usage stars in Russ and Harden that got some time to get their bodies back right. Now, Russ obviously got dinged, so he's missed time. But
you know what I find?
But yeah, I do, Brandon. I do think this helps them.
You know what I find interesting is that you're basically saying this series is over. That's what you're saying to me, is that this series is over. Are you serious? This is what this series needs. Carmelo Anthony, and I said it back in December when I came on the show, Carmelo Anthony is not washed up. We need a 30-point game from Carmelo Anthony, and this thing is going 7.
30.
7.
We'll get
going
30.
7.
It's going 7.
Wait,
it's going 7.
I don't know if we're
It's going 7. They got to give Carmelo the freedom to shoot the ball. We need Carmelo to feel comfortable.
The theme so far has been, would the real Lakers stand up? And Nick, we talked about this coming in. Once they turn the corner, you were going to see the Lakers. Have they indeed turned the corner? Is this now the team we're going to see moving forward? Are you fully confident in that? There's no more activating?
Yeah, look, they've been, yes, and I actually think we've seen it the whole playoffs. Listen, the defense has been elite in all 3 games. Game 1, and this was an unbelievable number, and thanks to Kevin O'Connor for bringing it to my attention. There's such second spectrum has a stat called shot luck. Essentially, who's taking the shots, where are they taken from, how closely are they guarded, should they be made or missed. They have tracked this from 2013 to now, regular season and postseason. Every single basketball game played, regular season or postseason, the single worst shot luck recorded was the Lakers in Game 1. And they still had a 6-point lead with 5 minutes left. Folks are like, oh, I don't know, man. Dame time. Feels like Barkley's calling for a sweep. Wilds is writing down predictions he's afraid to unveil. We still got Brandon saying Blazers are going to take them 7. This thing was always 5. It was always a gentleman's sweep. It always will be a gentleman's sweep. And Brandon, you were so on fire with the Luka take, and then LeBron's going to get his 4th title, and then you come out with Blazers taking it 7. I'm just so taken aback.
This is what you want to see.
I feel wounded.
Come on, this is what we want to see. We don't want to see a games go to 5. We want to go to 7.
Well, yeah, it'd be good
well,
theater.
The Blazers,
and I'd love to see Melo get 30. Come on.
Are going to try to even up this series in Game 4 tonight. We will preview that. But there was some NFL news over the weekend. Earl Thomas is now a free agent. Guess which team is rumored to be first in line to land him? First things first. All right, let's stick with some football now. The Baltimore Ravens released All-Pro safety Earl Thomas yesterday for what they are calling conduct detrimental to the team following an on-field altercation during Friday's practice with teammate Chuck Clark. This is your middle-of-the-road music, Nick. Thomas released the following statement saying, I appreciate the Ravens organization for the opportunity. Had a great run. Wish things would have ended different, but you live and you learn. Thank you, Eric DaCosta, and everyone else who played a role in bringing me to Baltimore. Wish you guys the best. Brandon, you know Earl. You played with Earl. You were surprised by this, weren't you?
Yes, I'm surprised, Jenna, because this is not the Earl I know. I played with Earl in Seattle, and this guy would come, and he was the most humblest person I've played with, fiercest competitor, but this guy never talked. If there was anything that I could link him to a bad teammate, it would be that he didn't talk. So this is telling. There's something deeper going on here. So when you see a Pro Bowl player, All-Pro player, potential Hall of Fame player get released like this, then you got to look at the history. You have to look at the track record. And so I don't know what's going on, but we know that he's had a tough offseason personally. And I keep thinking about how does a Hall of Fame player that makes like the perfect decisions on the field make a few bad decisions this year and what's going on with him. So I think this is one of those moments where we need to step back a little bit. Don't even look at football and think about, okay, Earl, are you okay? You know, but I love Earl. This is not the Earl I know. I need this guy to get back on track.
Brandon, do you think moving forward that it's best for Earl to immediately get into another organization or to take some time, like you said, and sort of figure out the personal side?
No, you have to get back into it. I mean, the best support system is your family, and football is family. We say that all the time, and that's why one of the things I hate about the NFL is that, you know, sometimes when our guys get in trouble, we say, okay, we ban you from the locker room. You can't come back for a couple of weeks. No, what we should be doing is you need to spend more time in the locker room because those guys are the guys that get you through these tough times. So I need to see Earl back in the locker room, hopefully Dallas, but this is his support system.
Just quickly here, before we talk about where he could land, reading the reporting about this, to me, there's a lot more that must have gone on within that locker room behind the scenes between Earl and some of his teammates. Now, listen, I get it. Chuck Clark appears to be maybe the most well-liked Ravens defensive player. But for a training camp fight to lead to, reportedly, Jenna, the leadership council of the team went to Harbaugh and said he's got to go, when he's an excellent player who, once he got the scheme, kind of got his legs under him last year and learned the scheme, was a great part of that defense. To me, this was jarring. I mean, this is a no doubt Hall of Famer who was a part of a great defense last year. And Jenna, for a training camp fight to be like, nope, you're out of here, leads me to believe there was a lot more going on within that Ravens locker room, that this just was kind of bubbling up to the surface, but that within the team, there's a lot more to it, Jenna.
That's a great point, Nick. Well, as the news of Thomas's release was slipping out on Sunday, Adam Schefter reported that the Dallas Cowboys would be a leading contender to sign the All-Pro as a free agent. So, Nick, let me send it back to you. Let's talk fit here. Would Earl Thomas work in Dallas?
1,000%. Like, on the field, he might not still be peak prime Legion of Boom Earl Thomas, but he's without question one of the 3 best free safeties in the entire NFL. And the Cowboys been trying to get an impact safety, whether it's Earl Thomas or Jamal Adams, for the last 2.5 seasons. And by the way, Brandon, they lose Byron Jones in the offseason. I know he's a corner, but obviously if you lose a great corner, the need for great safety play is only heightened. And when you look at their roster, Brandon, their biggest weak point is the secondary. So if they were thinking about trading a first-round pick and giving Jamal Adams a massive contract, if they could get Earl for no draft pick compensation, to me, that's a perfect fit for a huge need for them, Brandon.
Yeah, listen. If there was ever a better time to get a superstar safety, this is the time now. This team is primed to take it the distance and be a contender. Go get your guy. This guy was born in Texas. He went to Texas for college. He loves the star. He's been hollering about it. Everybody wants to see it. America wants to see it. America's team, please get this done. I would love to see Earl Thomas with that star on the side of his helmet and making some plays. I think this team is primed to go from all talk, from pretenders to contenders. And this is the year. Let's go.
Brandon, I know we just talked about wanting Earl in an organization and a structure to get his mind right. If you're the Cowboys, and suppose you're like an executive on the Cowboys, do you give a call to the Ravens to be like, hey, what happened? Because if I was in charge of the Cowboys, I would say, all right, a Super Bowl contender just got weaker on defense on purpose by letting this guy go. I'm not totally sure that I want to absorb sort of that type of behavior or that history in the locker room. So what diligence do you think the Cowboys do with the Ravens?
They know Earl. They know Earl personally. Let's go back a couple years. Earl walked into the Dallas Cowboys locker room asking them to come pick him up in the offseason. They don't need to do their due diligence. If any organization is ready for a player like this, it's the Cowboys. They have a history of bringing in players that are on the edge. This is Earl Thomas. They know this guy. They want this guy. They just didn't want to pay him then. So if they can get this guy at a discount and they can surround him with some leaders, he'll be just fine.
And quickly, Wilds, I would argue that for the third team, it's almost risk-free. So listen, I'm not comparing Earl to AB as far as off-the-field issues at all, but think about it. AB's in Pittsburgh forever, wears out his welcome. Then the Raiders take a big swing, give him a big contract and trade for him. It doesn't work out there.
Yep.
It kills their cap. They gave up draft picks. The Patriots bring him in. He plays well for a week. Doesn't work out because off-field stuff, you cut him, they're totally fine. They win 6 in a row after that, cost them almost no money. With Earl, he's in Seattle forever. It sours at the end. The Ravens give him a huge deal. It doesn't work out after a year. Now they're going to be in grievance negotiation about the money. Whoever brings him in next, it's going to be almost risk-free. If it doesn't work, you're going to cut him, and he's not going to have huge dead money or salary cap. So I just feel like if you're third in line, you get the benefit of the greatness of the player without the risk associated with the contract or the draft picks. So for the Cowboys or anybody, this is a move I would strongly, strongly consider.
All right, let's switch some gears now back to last night's masterpiece by Luka Doncic. Mavs are soaring, Clippers are reeling, and yet, guys, that series is all tied up. We'll break it down next. First things first.
Is Broussard still got Clippers in 5?
Back here with Chris Broussard, and we are talking Mavs Clips Game 4, Broussard. So where does Luka's incredible game winner leave the Clippers now? Yeah, the series is tied, but momentum has shifted way over to Dallas. Kawhi, though, finished with 32 and 9. He was great, but it was another dud for Paul George. Just 9 points on 3 of 14 shooting. Doc Rivers had some harsh criticism for his team after the game. Take a listen.
Honestly, I thought we got to lead and stop playing and give them credit. They kept playing. I thought that end of the second, that whole second quarter, they'll make it a run, get back in the game, change the whole complexity of the game. But honestly, I thought we were very emotionally weak tonight, to be honest.
Broussard, how do you call your team emotionally weak? How do you show up emotionally weak for a game like this?
Now, let's keep it real. Doc said we are not an emotionally weak team, but tonight we were very emotionally weak. There's a difference. And that's why I still have faith that the Clippers will win the series and win the championship. Bring it on. Bring it all.
Yes.
I want all. This is only going to make it that much better in about 4 weeks or however long it is before they win the championship.
4 weeks? My God.
But look,
Did you hear what you said?
Yeah.
Did you hear what you said? You just said the head coach. The head coach just called his players, his team, emotionally weak, and you're saying that's not my team. If that is the language a coach used, then that is your team. Think about what Paul George said after the game. He said, I need to have a volatile crowd. I need people in a volatile environment to get going. Is he bored? Like, come on, what's going on with your team, man?
All right, look, here's the deal. First of all, I'm not going to let Doc fully escape. Doc's got to do better with the rotations. He's got to get his guys emotionally ready to play. And Reggie Jackson being in at the end of the game is shaky right there. However, I like the fact that Doc called them out. He needs to. This whole year, they have needed to be more accountable. And that's on Doc Rivers. And so Doc calling these guys out the way he did, that is the first step, all right? Recognizing you have a problem is the first step. You know, Nick, last week, what did I say after they lost game 2? I said, look, this nonchalant, we can turn it on whenever we want. We can win with whoever's on the court. Attitude that they've had all season is coming back to haunt them. I think they can get over it, but I'm glad Doc is calling them out on it. I'm cool. Yep. Okay, it won't be in 5. It'll be in 6. Fine.
Okay. Listen, so here's the deal. This is so great. It's so great. And I'm going to throw it back to you, Broussard, because I love it so much. Because all we are is 70-plus games into the only season these guys have played together. And you are still insistent they are going to be something they weren't all regular season and something they haven't been specifically this series, which is better than the Mavericks. Game 1, they jump out 18-2, and after that, a 69-48 stretch before Kristaps gets kicked out. Game 3, Game 2, pardon me, the Mavs lead wire to wire. And Game 4, the Clippers go up 21 with Luka on a bum leg and no Kristaps. And that is followed by 75-42. This game doesn't even go to overtime if the refs don't miss Lou Williams just absolutely raking Luka across the arm when the Mavs have the ball up 7 with 3 minutes left to lead to the layup. But I'm glad the refs missed that call because it led to the Luka iconic shot right in Kawhi's face. No, Kawhi once again switched off him, so he didn't have to deal with that. It was on Reggie Jackson. Should have been on Kawhi if Kawhi was going to guard him. But here's my question to you, Broussard. There were 2 reasons folks such as yourself, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, said the Clippers were the favorites. The Clippers are going to win the title. Reason 1, 2 superstar do-everything wings. Reason 2, an elite defensive team. I'm looking around, I see 1 superstar wing, and I see no defense. So if the 2 biggest reasons you're supposed to win the title don't exist, why are you supposed to win the title?
Well, those were 2 of the reasons. All right, they also have good off. They're the second highest rated team offensively this season. You know that. So they're not just a defensive team. They have offense as well. They have as much depth, if not more, than any other team in the league. Now, Doc's got to do a better job of handling that depth, and it's showing right now. And I think some guys are frustrated. Some guys are wondering, why was Reggie Jackson in the game at the end? And when Doc talks about emotionally weak, you saw several examples. You mentioned it, Nick, at the end of the game, when Reggie Jackson, now Doc said they wanted to switch, but Reggie was supposed to deny Luka. So the fact that he didn't deny Luka the ball for longer, that's emotional weakness. Or I would say fact that Kawhi didn't fight over the pick to guard Luka and insist on doing that. That's giving in. I was told that Paul George and Doc had words. Doc was like, stay aggressive. We need you to shoot more. And George is like, well, I'm missing. I'm off. That probably is what Doc was referring to as well as some emotional weakness. So, look, yesterday, there's no defending. I'm not even mad because I'm a Luka fan, and I couldn't be mad after that shot. And also, I'm confident that the Clippers will still win the series, and all of you will bow, including the newcomer. Brandon Marshall has not wasted any time calling me out. He will bow as well as the rest of you. Watch.
Kevin, Kevin, do you find it interesting that Chris isn't addressing the elephant in the room? He's talking about Doc Rivers, he's talking about Luka, but it comes down to Paul George. Like, Paul George, like, where is he? Like, think about this.
I hate to say
it. This guy is, like, where's he at, Kev?
I'm using, this is what Nick used against my Blazers, and it was actually a good take, although it seems like a paradox. Paul George is shooting so poorly, it probably bodes well for the Clippers. If you don't think Paul George is hurt and that he's just in a slump, he's going to break out of the slump. So Nick Wright sent me a text out of the blue on the weekend. He's like, hey, Wilds, look at this graphic. This is why I felt good. I feel good that the Lakers are the worst shooting team in the bubble. And that's what Paul George is. Paul George is playing so poorly, unless his shoulder is hurt and he's not telling anyone, which he hasn't mentioned yet. So I feel like he's playing so poorly. Once he bounces back, Broussard, I think we'll get the real Paul George. And
but he's running out of time.
He's ran out of time. People are starting to question if he's a superstar. No, people are starting to question if he's a superstar. Have you ever seen Kobe Bryant not rise to the occasion? LeBron James,
well, he's not
Kobe. Michael Jordan.
He ain't that.
Serena, but he's a superstar. But he's a superstar. When have you ever seen a superstar not rise to the occasion? If he's a true superstar, then he'll go for 30 next game.
Or,
Jenna,
listen,
He's a star.
Of course he's not a
He's a
superstar.
number two.
But the
Now, he's not even looking like a number two right now.
He
but
did,
though,
to his credit.
Come back.
Broussard, to his credit, he did outscore the Mavs number 2 yesterday. Because the Mavs beat them with their number 2 in street clothes, chilling. Because the great depth of the Clippers can't overcome a loss of Patrick Beverley. Great depth of the Clippers can't beat guys the Knicks gave away, undrafted players, and Maxi Kleber, who's 1 of 17 from 3 in the series. But Wilds, to bring it back to your point, which was, well, Nick, you said the Lakers are so bad it's actually good. I wouldn't feel that way if the Lakers hadn't been a top 5 offense all year. They had been, so you knew it would correct to the mean. Can we show what playoff P really means? Here's Paul George. Here's a list you don't want to be on.
This is something from like 2015. Is this the stat?
No. This is Wild's new graphic. Worst field goal percentage. Last 4 seasons. That's Marcus Smart, who just learned to shoot recently. Danny Green, who's just had some awful playoff runs. Russ, who gets crushed for his bad playoff performances. And playoff P. I don't even have to tell you about the 2 for 16 in a closeout game. Listen, it's only gotten worse for him. He was 4 for 17 in game 2, and we're like, what's wrong? He's like, I'll show you what's wrong. It can get worse. How about 3 for 16? And then how about yesterday? 3 for 14. It's just worse and worse and worse, Jenna.
Broussard, hop in here. Are you going to be the guy to defend him? Go ahead.
Nick is being disingenuous, and Wild's already called him out on the Lakers, okay? I'm going to call you out on Westbrook. Now, you think your Rockets have a great chance to do something special these playoffs. I mean, I know you obviously got them losing in the next round to the Lakers, but you have faith in Russell Westbrook. He was on that list, too. So if you can have faith in Russell Westbrook, why can't you have faith in Paul George?
Okay, well, a couple things. One is Russ.
That's all I need.
Right, I got it. One is Russ has been far better than Paul George thus far this postseason simply by not playing. By being inactive, he has outplayed Paul George. Secondarily, Russ brings a lot more to the table than high-efficiency shooting. Paul George's whole game is supposed to be takes good shots, takes open shots, takes smart shots. Now, he's an excellent defender in theory. But when the Mavs are hanging 130 on you every night, nobody's a good defender. Russ is going to rebound and assist at a high level and do other things. And by the way, I'm not so sure if playoff P didn't just infect Russ their 2 seasons together, which is why his percentages are low. Maybe now that he's free of that, he's going to bounce back up into the mid-40s. I'm not sure. I just know that Paul George, when we are speculating, is he hurt? That means you're playing terribly.
All right, well, the Clippers are in rough shape. Maybe not as rough as the Sixers. Is Joel Embiid's future in Philly up in the air after the Sixers got swept out of the first round? Next, first things first.
Terrible body language.
Back here at Chris Broussard, we're talking Celtics Sixers Saturday night, Game 4. We finally found Kemba Walker, guys. He had 32 points and just Jason Tatum went for 28 and 15. And the Boston Celtics easily complete the sweep, move on to face the Raptors. Easy peasy. As for Philly, well, another disappointing postseason. 3 years in a row now without making it past round 2. Joel Embiid, not happy. Take a listen.
Yes, I'm here in Philly. Whatever happens, happens. I always say that I want to, end my career here. And if it happens, good. If it doesn't happen, well, you move on and all that stuff. But I'm here, and I'm gonna still try to do my best, to bring the championship back to Philly.
So what's the part that comes after the process? Because that's where the Sixers appear to be headed. Nick, let's spin this forward. What is the future for Philadelphia now? What does it look like after the Sixers got swept by Boston? Opening round here this year.
Murky and awful. And listen, we know what's going to happen today or tomorrow or in the next few days. As Broussard's been talking about, he's going to be proven obviously correct Brett Brown's going to get fired. But I thought Doris Burke did a brilliant job in slowly and methodically cutting down the Sixers organization in the final moments of last night or yesterday afternoon's game, talking about how they got to this point. Derek Bodner, a great writer, pointed this out on Twitter. 4 years ago, the Sixers had Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, the 3rd overall pick, a pick coming from the Kings, a pick coming from the Lakers, Dario Saric, Robert Covington, and 2 max cap spaces. Since then, they've gone through a GM who got fired for having burner accounts. Now they've got a former player running the team, and what they have gotten from that is Tobias Harris at $180 million. You've got Al Horford, who does not fit at all. Josh Richardson, who's making egregious turnovers. Ben Simmons hasn't improved. And Broussard, now most importantly, Joel Embiid seems broken emotionally. Broken's too strong. Beaten down emotionally. So what do you have to show for it? Like, Hinkie had you do this whole process and go through sports hell. And what's on the other side is you get to the second round twice. That's it. That's what you have to show for it. You never play even in conference finals. So I think the Sixers are in rough shape, Broussard.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head. The front office cannot, be blameless in this situation. That doesn't mean I'd replace them. I would take inventory of my entire organization, see what we're not doing correctly, and go from there. But I'm not convinced you have to change the front office regime. Obviously, as you said, you're changing the coach. All right, you got a Mark Jackson out there. I'd love to see him get it. I don't know that he would. I think this is a job that Jeff Van Gundy's name should be mentioned about, because you need somebody to hold these players accountable. Josh Richardson, who, remember, came from the championship culture down in Miami, he said last night after the game, and I don't think it was the first time, we need more accountability. Brett Brown's a great guy. Everybody likes him, but we need more accountability. All right, so that's what the next coach needs to bring. Here's what I would do. I would keep Embiid and Simmons. I wouldn't trade them this offseason. I would get a coach that I believe, whether it's through his interview or through his past history, who can maximize Simmons and Embiid together, all right, where they can both play close to their best basketball on the court at the same time. And then if it doesn't work out next year, if they go out prematurely, then I move on, and the guy I trade is Embiid. I trade him for a perimeter star who can shoot and other shooters, and then I play Ben Simmons like Milwaukee plays Giannis.
Nick, I'm going to throw it to you here. I don't know what you do, Broussard. I think it's interesting, like, you try to bring in a coach that can make those guys work. But I don't know if there is a coach that can make them work. I don't know if Stan Van can do it. And when you talk about blowing up the front office, it reminds me of like the Bugs Bunny Looney Tune when you have the TNT and you're trying to blow up the Roadrunner. Or it's the Roadrunner, not Bugs Bunny. Excuse me, I get my cartoons confused. And you hit the TNT and it actually blows you up. It might be the people that are detonating it might need to be detonated, Nick.
Yeah, listen, I'm not saying you fire the front office. What I'm saying is the front office has done a terrible job. Like, now you can recover from it, I suppose, but they've done a terrible job up to this point. And now, Broussard, you're talking about potentially moving off Embiid. I want to ask you, Brandon, as a player, what's your reaction to hearing Joel Embiid in the midst of a massive contract extension with multiple years left on his deal, openly opining on the podium about if his future lies within the organization? When you hear that, what does it tell you?
Well, first, Nick, you have to look at the locker room and the boardroom. Let's start with the boardroom. This organization has rushed to capitalize off these 2 superstars the last 4 years. You guys said it, so you have to hold them accountable. And I don't think you rush it. I think you're right, Chris. I think you hold this team together for at least half a season. But then when you go to the locker room, look at his body language. That's your star. That's your leader. Have you ever seen your lead? Look at this. No. This is the reason why we're losing. There's no reason why he himself shouldn't at least won 1 game. This is not what you want out of your superstar. His mindset, his language, his body language, all of it says is loser, loser, loser mentality. He needs to fix that. He needs to look himself in the mirror before he can look at anybody else in this organization. They gave you the keys to get the job done. Y'all have everything y'all need in that building.
And a great article, I read it on Yahoo. I wish I could shout out the writer, but I'm not certain. I think it was Chris Haynes, but I might be wrong on that. My apologies if I am. About how it fell apart, and one of the reasons Jimmy Butler didn't love the culture there and thought guys were a little soft and couldn't take criticism. And so I do think that's well taken. But Broussard, the other thing that I think is fair to say about this Sixers team is their two stars are immature. It is immaturity when it comes to Ben Simmons not evolving his game. It might be a different type of immaturity, but that is professional immaturity. When I started this show, if there was one thing, and there were 1,000 things I need to work on, and I still do, but the point, if there was one thing, everyone's like, Nick, you'll be great if you just stop doing this. And 3 years later, they're like, Nick, you'd be great if you just stop doing this. It's like, okay, well, that's professional immaturity. And Embiid, with respect, his struggles with his weight, his struggles with his comments after the game, mocking a reporter for asking a legitimate question, and his body language, Broussard, that's immaturity. And these guys aren't little kids anymore. Embiid's been in the league a long time to still be that immature, and Ben Simmons getting a pass here because he didn't play. But his game not evolving is immature, Broussard.
I totally agree. And that's why even if Simmons had been there, they still would have lost to Boston. Maybe they would have got them 6 games, but they would have lost. I agree, but that's why they brought in Al Horford. Now, they thought that Al would be that great professional locker room presence and leader that helped these guys mature. Turns out his personality is not strong enough to do that. But, Nick, you look, is Horford overpaid? Yes. Is Tobias a little bit overpaid? Sure. But the fact is they have talent, Nick. They do have talent. And those two guys, while they may not be great leaders, they are great professionals. They are high character guys, both of them. So if I can get the right coach, yeah, okay, we're not going to have cap room to go add this and that. But they've got enough talent where they should be able to compete in the Eastern Conference.
Chris, you're missing it. Talent only takes you so far, Chris. Chris, talent only takes you so far. We're looking at his body language. No, you can't change that. The coach can't change Embiid's body language. If you don't correct that, you can't win. Talent only takes you so far. Embiid needs to look himself in the mirror. That's what he needs to do. He's either check his own attitude and his body language. Look at this. That's bad. If I'm his play, you are the star. It's a trickle-down effect. What do you think the number 6 guy on the bench, the 8th guy on the bench, what do you think he is looking at? What is he going to follow? This is why the Peyton Mannings of the world, the Lisa Leslies of the world have been champions for so long, because they don't tolerate that. This is not leadership.
Listen, it's a great point, Brandon. And as far as the Sixers, listen, if you need a great locker room guy, that's what with respect, my pal Jared Dudley's for at the veteran minimum. You don't give Al Horford $100 million to be your locker room guy. That is the highest paid Svengali in league history, and he wasn't even good at it this year. Like, I mean, if you need a coach from the bench, you can find those guys. You ain't got to spend a max cap spot on them, Jenna.
Well, right now, they most likely just need a coach. All smiles in Boston today. Celtics are moving on. The Patriots are getting a revitalized and re-energized Cam Newton. First things first.
Now we're back.
All right, Gustavo.
Take that, Lane Johnson.
Time for drawing a blank, starting in New England, where Julian Edelman is getting on track with his new quarterback, Cam Newton, saying Cam is, quote, definitely a former MVP for a reason. They actually do practice in black and white, unlike other teams. Nick, Cam Newton's first season with the Patriots will be blank.
An apology tour. And that apology tour will be people apologizing to folks such as myself. And by the way, it's already started. We already had the first round of the apology tour, which was all the people who were like, do not include Cam Newton on Patriot targets. They're going with Jared Stidham. They love his command of the offense. Cam Newton doesn't fit there. Okay, now that was first round of apology tour. The second round was all those same people being like, all right, I know they signed him, but I'm not sure he's going to make the roster, and if he does, don't pencil him in as the week 1 starter. That's the second round of the apology tour. The final round of the apology tour will be when Cam's playing great, and all those people are like, I know he won an MVP when 15-1 was great the last time he was healthy, but at 31 years old, I think he's cooked. So it'll be a 3-lap apology tour. Right now, we're midway through lap 2, Brandon, and I'm excited for the next lap and a half.
Only you, only you, only you. Trophy season is the answer. Trophy season. Ooh. And it's not because, it's not Lombardi. It's comeback player of the year. This is a team sport. His number 1 asset is Josh McDaniels. This will be Cam Newton's best year he's ever had. Josh McDaniel, every single day, demands that you bring out all of your potential. So I'm excited for Cam Newton. You can see it on the sidelines with some of the footage that's coming out of camp. He's being himself, so we don't have to worry about that. Now, him being the first one to work, the last one to leave, it says a lot. And I think that this tandem, Josh McDaniels and Cam Newton's going to be one to deal with every single Sunday. So I'm excited to see it. Cam Newton will be comeback player of the year.
Oh, I like that. Quick additions here. The 4th round of Nick's apology tour is Nick apologizing to future Hall of Famer Julian Edelman for slandering him these last few weeks. I was happy with your enthusiasm there, Brandon. But when you say trophy season, you say, well, not the Lombardi trophy. Like, it's only one trophy that matters in New England. And my answer is caffeinated. Cam Newton, first one to get to Gillette every day. Mike Reese wrote, hey, if you want to come up to Gillette, where it is, you want to beat Newton at Gillette Stadium, you have to arrive well before the sun rises. Such a motivated approach, coupled with a well-advertised energy he brings to the field, have created a spark inside team headquarters and positioned him as a leader in not only the comeback player of the year, but the Super Bowl trophy, unlike what Brandon Marshall just said. Real quote from Mike Reese.
Super Bowl.
That's very well read, Wilds. You did a good job there. Let's talk Giants now. Hall of Famer Bill Parcells chimed in favor of Big Blue head coach Joe Judge and some of his, let's call them Belichickian ways. Parcells said to Judge, be yourself. So, Nick, Bill Parcells' advice to Joe Judge is blank.
Dangerous. And I say dangerous because we always say everyone should just be themselves. But what if being yourself is being a doofus? What if being yourself is like we're in New York City and it's a tough town and therefore we have to go one-on-one goal line and players don't need names on jerseys and what if being yourself is in and of itself an anachronism in 2020? I'm just saying, I think it's great to be yourself if you're forward-thinking, if you're a really cool guy, if you're a great time to hang out. If you're none of those things, maybe you should pretend to be someone else. So just, listen, it worked for Bill Parcells. I don't know if it's going to work for Joe Judge. So, Brandon, I say it's dangerous advice.
You know what? And I say it's great advice. When the Godfather speaks, you listen. Bill Parcells brought me down to Miami. He's like an uncle to me. Every offseason we get together. He's helped me every year since. Listen, could it be that Bill Parcells is really talking to Joe and saying, be yourself and not Bill Belichick? We see that. Coaches that go from New England and go to a new team, they try to be Bill Belichick, and that's where they go wrong. Josh McDaniels go to Denver. I was there in 2010, his first year. He wore his hoodie the same way that Bill Belichick wore his. Be yourself, Joe.
Brandon, I wrote lap-inducing. My favorite part of all these Joe Judge press conferences was when he talked about how players had to do laps for mistakes. And I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever heard of that on the professional level? And if you were on the Giants and Joe Judge were like, Marshall, lap it up, what would you do?
I would do it, and I'll be saying curse words under my breath. Josh McDaniels. So to answer your question, yes, Josh McDaniels did it in Denver. If you jumped off sides, it was a rule. Don't even look back, just run. So guys would jump off sides, make a mistake, and they would just start running. Coach didn't have to say anything. That was the culture. But that's one of the reasons why they win. It works for some, but maybe not all.
But I think Joe Judge wanted the coaches to do laps as well. On to Baltimore now, where Earl Thomas is no longer a Raven. Released Sunday after an altercation with teammate Chuck Clark during Friday's practice. Nick, fighting with a teammate at practice is blank.
Brandon, I'm going to say it's situational because I think sometimes it's not a big deal at all. It can actually kind of be a rallying moment of training camp, and sometimes, evidently, it leads to a Hall of Famer getting released. So I think the background and what led up to it is a huge part of it. I don't think you can say it with a blanket rule, so I say it's situational.
And I would say it's normal. This happens, right? But what doesn't happen is a player getting cut or released right after. So there's some more to this story. We need to dive deeper. I'm afraid for Earl. You know, this offseason's been tough for him personally. So I think he's been making some bad decisions. But this is a player that makes all the right decisions on the field. So I'm concerned.
So Brandon, I'm going to throw it back to you. If we kind of agree, and there's been local reports out of Baltimore that this was just kind of like the final straw with Earl, where do you think he needs to go organizationally? What type of organization does he need to support him to get him back on the right track?
Someone who's used to dealing with superstars. I was honored to be able to. It was an honor to be able to play with Earl in Seattle. This guy is one of the ultimate teammates. He doesn't talk much, so if there's anything that can be linked to him as a bad teammate is that he really doesn't talk. So I think a team who's used to dealing with superstars, meaning that not everyone is treated the same. And that's the thing in the NFL, the NBA, the WNBA, is like when you're a superstar, that comes with superstar status, meaning you may not eat with the team. You may be stretching on your own. So he needs to be in an organization that's used to that because that's who Earl Thomas is. He's just a little different.
All right, we'll take a turn now. Nick has two sons, Demonze and this guy. His adult Slovenian Luka Doncic, who was the star of the show last night. Your adult Slovenian son, Nick.
Is that
so
a new
cute.
one?
I didn't teach him that step back, though.
First things
I didn't
first.
teach
You
him
guys
that
go to
step back.
Supercuts?
He learned that on his own.
Are you guys going to Supercuts?
So stupid.
Welcome back. Chris Broussard still joining us. Time for stories to start your morning. Thunder up. OKC outlasting Houston in overtime Saturday to win Game 3 to get back in the series. Harden had 38 but fouled out in overtime. Broussard, is this a series now or just a one-off by OKC?
I think it's a series. I'm not as convinced that they'll win as I am that the Clippers will win their series, but I do give OKC a chance. I mean, Chris Paul was more aggressive yesterday as a scorer, and he has to do that every game because of the switching defense Houston is playing, and that's not a given that Chris will. He's kind of done that off and on throughout his career, so I need more aggression. And Lou Dort, they found something with this kid who can defend, and they can match Houston with the small ball. So I give them a decent chance.
Two quick things. One is Houston's up 5 with 55 seconds left with the chance to put the series away. Got to close the game out there. I think they still win, but now they're in a series. But maybe more importantly, shout out to Chris Paul. Set a record that I think we can safely say will never be broken. Became the first NBA player ever to punch someone in the groin in 3 different decades. The aughts, the 10s, and now the 20s. So Chris Paul, I mean, that is an Iron Man-esque streak that I don't know if it will ever be touched by anybody. And by the way, NBA, everybody loves CP3. I know he's out of the Players Association. Is he going to get in any trouble? I mean, he just punched Harden right in the groin, and he's a serial groin puncher. Like, we just know this about him. Like, it's just no trouble? No trouble? Okay.
That hurts, right? I've heard that hurts.
It's 9 in the morning.
That's not going to help you get
it's
a
9 in the morning.
That's why I said groin.
That's right.
That's why I said groin, Wild.
It's just
What would you have said at noon?
Just talk about Chris Paul's
Let's move on.
leadership.
Let's move on. Jenna said,
Oh, my goodness. Listen.
Jazz taking control. Are we still talking about the groin, or are we moving on?
Oh, see,
Moving on. Jazz
Let's
taking
move on.
control.
Let's
Donovan
move on.
Mitchell
Let's
doing
move on.
excellent in the next game. Donovan Mitchell at 51. Jamal Murray going for 50. Utah, while you're watching this, wins by 2 to go up 3-1 in the series. This is the series of which I speak. Wilds, what statement did Donovan Mitchell make in this game?
Okay, controversial opinion coming. I don't know if this game was blacked out across the country and it just went to my TV. Maybe it was like Wilt's 100-point game, like you heard about it, but nobody saw it and there's no video. Because if we can see what Donovan Mitchell's been doing, so no one's talking about Donovan Mitchell. Luka's all of a sudden Bill Russell, someone said on the show he's going to be better than Bill Russell earlier. He's got 3 wins. He's got more points. He doesn't rebound the ball. That doesn't matter. And he's shooting the 3 like a monster. Donovan is playing crazy. Luka's got 98% of the media attention. And poor Donovan Mitchell's leading a 6-seeded Jazz team to an upset. And nobody cares except your old friend Kevin Wildes.
It's Wildes, it's a fair point. He hasn't been as good as Luka overall, but 2 50-point games in a series, only MJ and Iverson have done that in modern NBA history. And listen, I have to, what's fair is fair, Brandon. I obviously have nailed the Lakers series. I'm obviously going to be right about the Clippers, but I was dead wrong about the Nuggets. Dead wrong.
Say that.
I picked Nuggets in 5.
Listen.
I picked the Nuggets to roll over Utah. I thought Utah, when they couldn't win game 1, when Donovan scored 57, they were dead, and they came back with 3 straight victories. And, I mean, they beat the Jazz, the Nuggets yesterday. Brandon, Jamal Murray scored 50 as well, so I assume Wild says he's also better than Luka. But, Brandon, shout out to the Jazz, who have quietly been excellent the last 3 games.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's time to put respect on his kid's name. I don't know if because he's hiding in Utah, but, you know, you have KD out there, you have LeBron, but next up, really, 1 and 2, there's Luka and there's Donovan. Put respect on this guy's name. He is the face of the NBA alongside of Luka.
Look,
is
he
that
looks
far
like
off?
Dwayne
Is that
Wade.
Chris?
He looks like Dwayne Wade with a 3-point shot at this point. He's looking great. I give him props. I think that's a little stretch to face in the NBA with Luka, but he's looking tremendous, and he's showing that he doesn't hold a grudge. Because remember, people were wondering, can he play with Rudy Gobert after the coronavirus, controversy? I'm glad they've worked it out.
All right,
I gave
speaking
KD
of
and
Luka,
LeBron love. Come on.
little superstar status, 43 points, 17 rebound, 13 assist performance, and the shot of the year for Luka Doncic, who, may I remind you, is only 21 years old. Brandon, what's the ceiling for Luka?
The best. You heard me say it's the face. I'll give LeBron love. I'll give KD love. You can throw Steph in there. But there's 4 things that he is the best at, right? There's skill set, strength, size, and smarts. When you see those 4 things, who compares to him right now? This kid hasn't even entered his prime. So when you talk about the ceiling for him, he is the face of the NBA.
Yeah, listen, there is no ceiling. He walked into the league and profiled, if everything hit, he could be one of the 10 greatest players ever. And up to this point in his career, that is, again, he could only play how long he's played. Like, we can't hold against him. Well, he hasn't done it long enough. He's only been in the league this long. So he has hit every single benchmark, and yesterday was an iconic moment for a guy that's going to be an iconic player, Broussard. Over the next 15 years, you're not going to be able to have the best player in the world discussion without talking about him. And 30 years from now, you're not going to be able to have top 10 all-time player discussions without including him. That's what we're talking about with Luka, Broussard.
Look, he could be top 5 or higher. Could he ever catch Michael Jordan? He's never going to be the defender that Michael Jordan was, and he'll never be the defender that LeBron was. It's going to come down to how much does he win. And look, as clutch as he looks right now, we still don't know until he gets it done. I never would have believed early in LeBron's career that he would only have 3 titles in 17 years. I never would have thought he'd had only 3. And after LeBron went through Detroit with 29 of the last 30 points in his 4th game in his 4th year in that playoff game, I never would have thought LeBron would have had an experience like he did against the Mavericks in 2011. So we don't know until you do it. But if Luka can win, it's all going to be on how many championships he's win, because he's got the skill sets, he's got the game to be, seriously, top 5 if he can win some championships.
Okay.
Wiles, what's up with the Embiid body language?
You're off. This dude has it all. This dude has it all, man. For real.
I know.
Other than defense.
I'm okay with that. That's his second playoff game. Vince Carter won 88 playoff games. This is like you saying, Broussard, this is the best night of my life. And me being like, Broussard, it's 6:30. We got a long way to go. Why don't we just hold back on the best night of your life stuff?
I like
Come on,
that.
man.
I've been
Stop
sheltered. I've been chilling.
When you know, with the Embiid body language, Wild.
On
When
to
you
the
know,
Lakers
you know.
lock
You knew with
in.
this guy. How long did it take for this guy? You knew with this guy.
LeBron and
You knew
AD
right away.
both got it going for LA Saturday night. The King posting a stat line like we are used to seeing from the King. 38, 12, and 8. AD had 29 points in this, and the Lakers defense shined in the fourth quarter. Lakers beat the Blazers to take a 2-1 series lead. Nick, I'll ask you, did LeBron finally activate playoff mode in Game 3?
No, because he activated it in Game 1. And while I'm hesitant to correct any of my colleagues, to be fair to LeBron, from something Broussard said earlier, LeBron has 3 titles in 16 years. After 17 years, he's going to have 4, which paces very well for him to have 6
No, this
after
counts as
21
two.
years
Hesitate
when
to
it's all
correct.
done.
Nick, this counts
but
as
that's
2.
neither here nor there.
You thought he'd have more too, Nick. Admit it. Admit it.
That's revisionist history. I don't know. I feel like he's maximized every year except for 2011. It's neither here nor there. And so let's discuss this, though. Maybe one day, Broussard, folks, but probably never, folks are going to learn, you know, LeBron's probably thought about how he's going to approach these games. And maybe if LeBron is being uber pass first, there's a reason for it. It's not because he bet the over for his assists at Fox Bet. It's because he wants to get other guys involved in a quest to win 16 games. And he knows, particularly against the feeble defensive Blazers, whenever I want, I can do this. But that's not the best way for us to win a championship. Maybe it would have been the best way for us to win Game 1. But if that's what he does in Game 1, then does Anthony Davis have the monster Game 2 and the monster second half Game 3? If that's what he does in Game 1, does KCP snap out of his shooting slump? Does Danny Green finally hit a couple threes? I don't know. Playoff LeBron, Broussard, means when he has an off shooting night, he gets around 30. When he has a hot shooting night, he gets around 40. The Lakers have that in store for the next 20 or 21 games, however long it takes them to win 12 more. And that's what we're going to see. But this idea that he wasn't in playoff mode when in Game 1 he gave you the first 20-15-15 in playoff history, it's craziness. I'm not saying you said that, Broussard. I'm saying to the I see the puzzled look on your face. I'm saying to the general public that was wondering about when's LeBron, when are we going to see playoff LeBron?
Look, I agree with you. Obviously, LeBron is cerebral. LeBron can control a game. We all know that. But I'm not sure he's quite the puppet master that you just described, all right? It's really convenient that Nick just glossed over Game 2. I know they won, but LeBron had 10 points and 6 turnovers.
Yeah.
That is not playoff LeBron, all right? That's preseason LeBron. He still had 6 turnovers. I mean, so that was not playoff LeBron. The question, LeBron was better in Game 3 than he was in Game 1. Despite the historic stat line from Game 1, he was better in Game 3. And, Nick, you know this. I've been saying I need LeBron to be more of an aggressive scorer, and that's what he did. So the fact that the bench only hit, 1 3-pointer in Game 3 didn't matter because LeBron came to play offensively, and that's what the Lakers need to close out Portland.
Go ahead,
Chris,
Brandon.
you just called probably the smartest NBA player ever cerebral. No, it's not cerebral. He is that smart. He's very tactical. He's very strategic in everything he does. It reminds me of Michael Jordan. Look, think about The Last Dance. We just watched that, right? It captured all of America. And then Michael Jordan has something to say that was really interesting. He said, my teammate Scott Burrell, when you guys see this, you may look at me as a bad guy, but I knew we needed him down the stretch, so I was hard on him in practice. So what we watched and what we witnessed was a Michael Jordan playing chess, playing 10 moves out. So when you look at LeBron, the first game, the second game, he knew that AD had to be involved for them to get to the championship and win. For him to get that 4th ring, He needs AD hot. This is why LeBron, to me, is the smartest guy that ever played basketball, and sometimes to his detriment.
Couldn't have said better myself, Brandon. You're going to fit right in.
Nick was just.
This is great.
Nick
I
was
agree.
just.
This is great.
I mean,
Here was the. I agree with what you said for the most part, Brandon. But Nick was acting as if LeBron meant to only score 10 points and commit 6 turnovers. Maybe so the other guys could get used to handling the ball for down the line in game 2.
No, just
That's
quickly, Wilds, no. It is, you can criticize LeBron's performance. He was sloppy with the ball in game 2, and he smoked some layups. So you can say he played poorly. But Wilds, this idea that he had the wrong approach is just nonsense. It is what it is saying is, you know what it is? Peyton Manning, if he threw a pick, we might say he made a bad throw. But nobody, after Manning been in the league a decade, be like, you know what? Pre-snap, I think he misread it. Pre-snap, he shouldn't have checked into it. And no, I know better from my couch what Peyton was seeing and why he did it. He sometimes would have a bad throw, but we didn't have the audacity to say, I know better than Peyton Manning what he's seeing with the defense. Yet we do this with LeBron every time his team loses. And even sometimes when they win. Like, should have been more aggressive. Put your head down.
You guys should hear Nick when he's fired up about something. Back to last night's hero, Luka, who I hope is sleeping in this morning after that performance last night. We break it down one more time. First things first. We're back talking the game winner of all game winners. Overtime, Mavs, Clippers, and Luka Doncic doing that with under 4 seconds left to play, nailing the overtime game-winning three-pointer and capping an incredible night for him. 43 points, 17 rebounds, 13 assists, a triple-double to tie the series up at 2. You loved it. I loved it. Nick loved it. LeBron loved it. LeBron tweeting after the game, loving Mike Green's famous bang-bang call on the buzzer beater. Steph Curry chiming in with sheesh. Luka, ridiculous. Blouses and D-Wade, wow. Luka, we are not worthy. Nick, a couple years ago, you sat down, you sold me on Luka. It was some grainy video from overseas. You said, watch this guy, he's going to be something. I probably ignored you. That's true? What I do. I don't do it anymore, Nick.
It's true.
I'm on board. I'm buying what you're selling. How special was Luka after what you saw last night?
This is how you become a legend. And I know that Wilds has tried to be the conscience of the show today, saying, like, listen, pump your brakes. It's the guy's 4th career playoff game. But it took him 4 career playoff games to join the following list. Like, hey, who's got the most points in a playoff game that ended with him hitting a buzzer beater? Well, it's Dame, then Jordan, then LeBron, then Luka. All right, who's got the most points in a playoff game with a triple-double, buzzer beater or not? Well, it's Russ and then Luka. Well, who's the youngest player to ever hit a buzzer beater in the playoffs? Well, it's Luka. Who's hit the longest playoff buzzer beater to win a game ever? Well, it's Dame and then Luka. Going into the postseason, his career high was 42 points. He matched it in game 1. He tops it in game 4. He's on a bum ankle. His team does not have their second best player. They're down 21 to an alleged championship favorite, and he busts all their asses. He was the best player on the court by a mile, and when you talk about how you become one of the greatest players ever, you have to have moments like this almost immediately. LeBron did, Michael did, Kobe did, Shaq did, Duncan did. Go up and down the list. You want to go old school, Kareem did, Magic did, Bird did. I could give you the list of what they all did, either by year 2 or by age 22. So they've all done it. And the only way you can get to where his trajectory has been since he was killing folks in Spain when he was 17 is by doing this right now. Where he's headed is that tip top of the pyramid, top 10 player to ever lace it up. That's the ceiling, Brandon. And will he get there?
I agree.
It'll be a hell of a lot of fun to watch over the next 15 years.
Yes, he will get there. Let me see if I can get this right. After the game, I love listening to the players and their pressers. I love listening to the coaches. Here's what his head coach, Rick Carlisle, said. Let me see if I can get this right. All right, so we know this kid has a thing for the flair of the dramatic. He's a performer. He's a great player. He lives for these moments. He's fearless. Basically, what his coach said was, this is your new face of the NBA. Like, we've never, I don't know the last time I heard such a glowing compliment from coach to player. Like, this kid has the 4 big things that I look at in any sport, in any player. All right, do they have the skill set? Do they have the strength? Do they have the size? And do they have the smarts? This guy makes everyone around him better. He makes the game easy for his teammates. And he plays the game at his pace. There's only one other guy I can think about that makes everyone he plays with or against play at his pace, and that is Steph Curry. Listen, this train is taking off. You better get on it or move out the way.
I'm going to give Luka a compliment sandwich. It's going to be a compliment is the bread, but it's going to be a Paul George insult in between. So I'm a big Paul George guy, but Paul George needs to be talked about here too. There's been 3 guys who have done triple-doubles in a buzzer beater. One was Luka last night. The second was LeBron. The third was Elgin Baylor. If we can run LeBron's play, you can take a look at who's guarding LeBron James. And you guessed it, all trivia fans. It's your old friend Paul George, who was on the court last night. There's a point, Nick,
when you got to
look at the Clippers and be like, what is the deal with these defensive guys that you have? Kawhi Leonard's 2 times Defensive Player of the Year, 5 times All Defense. Paul George 4 times All Defense, steals champ of 2018-2019. Wow. And they're not being used on Luka. My 6-year-old son knew that Luka was getting the ball, and it's poor Reggie Jackson. Of course he can't. He's guarding Curry in the corner. I don't know what Doc is doing. I really don't.
And by the way, I agree with you, but the idea that, listen, Kawhi shouldn't have switched. Kawhi should have been on him. But the idea that Kawhi could just shut him down is belied by the evidence of the series. There was a moment in the 3rd quarter of this game when the Clippers were really taking over where it was, good God, is that Trey Burke's music? Because Trey Burke, who was on the street, cooks Kawhi, and on the very next possession, Luka cooks him too. Now, Kawhi also had some good moments against Luka defensively, but Luka's not scared of any of these guys. Brandon, to your point, he is strong, and that because he's not super fast, but he's so strong he can get to his spots. And Jenna, I know we got to talk about the Clippers side of this, but I want to just add one more thing real quick about Luka that I am loving. He's only 21. He's already recognized, if I get my first tech early, I can talk the most heinous trash to everyone involved, and they can't do anything to me. He gets a tech in the first quarter, and every basket after that, he's turning and mother bleeping this and a taunting. It's brilliant.
And was safe.
It's brilliant.
After
He knows it. He's like, I'll take the tech.
They're not throwing anybody out.
And then, right, you're not throwing me out. Give me the tech early, and I'll yell at everyone. Stare you down and yell at you, Jenna. It's so awesome. It's so great.
You definitely can't put any of this on Kawhi Leonard. He had a great game. He's had a great series. You can put a lot of this on Paul George. He did not have a great game. He has not had a great series. Maybe a little bit on the defensive side. But I thought this was interesting. After the game, Clippers head coach Doc Rivers had some pretty harsh criticism about his team after that loss. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Honestly, I thought we got to lead and stop playing and give them credit. They kept playing. I thought that end of the second, that whole second quarter, they'll make it a run, get back in the game, change the whole complexity of the game. But honestly, I thought we were very emotionally weak tonight, to be honest.
Wow.
Brandon, what do you make of Doc Rivers calling that team emotionally weak last night?
Wow, if I'm in that locker room, if I'm sitting in that seat, I'm taking that personal. As a player, that's the worst thing you can hear. We pride ourselves on being strong. We pride ourselves on being tough. So when you hear your coach call you emotionally weak, man, that just speaks to the entire organization. You can't be emotionally weak at this level. And there's another thing that's interesting. After the game, Paul George also talked about, in hostile environments is usually when I can get out of these ruts or something like that. Well, what are you saying? Are you bored? Like, this is a superstar team. This is a team, like, Paul George went from team to team to get a ring, and this is what's happening. We never seen a superstar perform this way in big moments. Now, they may have a bad game, but they have to follow it up with a big game.
Well, two things. One is that's one of the reasons why Paul George ain't a superstar. He's a star, and he's trying to play himself off that tier, while Joe is trying to get me to elevate people on my tiers. No, he's not a superstar. Yeah. Paul George trying to play his way out. Paul George trying to play his way out of all scrutiny. You can't throw back-to-back 3 for 16, 3 for 14. You're going to be off all the lists. But to Doc, first of all, that's what the coaches are for, by the way, to make sure your guys are locked in the damn playoffs. And second of all, Jenna, the Mavs have controlled this series. Game 1, after getting punched in the mouth 18-2, 69-48 run until KP gets tossed. Game 2, wire-to-wire lead where the Clippers don't cut it to single digits at any point in the fourth quarter. And yesterday, after being down 21, the Mavs win the game. They've dominated the series, Jenna.
Brendan Marshall, you got one game under your belt, buddy. You got a whole lot more. Did you have fun?
Great job, Brandon.
I did. I'm the rookie.
Good.
Great job, Jenna.
Oh, here comes Wild with a prediction. We got to go. We'll see you tomorrow. Take us out.